Hello everyone, welcome to Reiki Radio. I am your host, Yolanda, and today we are talking about the full moon in Capricorn and how this relates to this current energy of discipline and discernment. So, of course, with full moon energy, we also want to look at what we are full of. But there is so much going on right now, and we are in this space of heightened energy, which I'm sure a lot of you are already feeling. So, let's talk about all of it, get comfortable, and enjoy the show. Okay, so let's talk about this energy that we're in right now. We have the full moon in Capricorn, which is today in North America, and it will actually be technically on the 28th in other areas like the UK. But as I mentioned, this energy of Capricorn itself really brings to light our discipline and using our discernment. So before we go too deep into that, I first want to ask you to take a second, take a breath, and just consider what you are full of during this full moon. Now, the full moon is often a time that we consider what we want to manifest. And it is heightened energy because of the fullness of the moon. And it can really illuminate for us what it is that we have been holding on to, what it is we are ready to complete or let go of. And because we've been in the sign of Gemini, this month has been full of ideas, full of energy from even the solstice about how we are showing up and expressing ourselves in the world. So you may have been thinking in this last month about what you're doing, how you do want to share different areas in your life related to communication, perhaps how you're communicating at work, in relationship, or again, even in career, how you're showing up and presenting yourself as a practitioner of whatever modality you may be practicing. So even with myself, and it didn't really occur to me until I was getting ready for the podcast today, I have been really focused on that too. You know, with this Gemini energy, there have been opportunities for collaborations, and I have been really focused on how I am sharing, how I'm communicating, what's coming up. So again, it's interesting when we look at how these different planetary alignments have a direct correlation to things we may be experiencing. And by us looking at this, we can understand and choose how to navigate consciously using these energies to support us rather than feeling like things are happening to us, right? So again, here we are in this full moon energy with Capricorn. And first I want to talk about this energy of discipline. So if you have been feeling this energy this month of considering what you want to do, new ideas, how you're sharing, making any changes or adjustments or new projects in your life, what does it take to get it done? What does it take to meet our goals? What does it take to, really live into the things we say we want to experience? It takes our discipline. So this full moon energy in Capricorn really can support us in illuminating where we may benefit from more discipline in our lives or where we may have been lacking it. Now, discipline of itself, when we talk about Capricorn, the ruling planet Saturn, or even just, again, discipline, people tend to think of something that sounds restrictive. Like if you have to be disciplined about, your practice, what you eat, how you live, it sounds very sometimes too regimented or, again, very restrictive. But that's just a certain perspective, right? And I always talk to you about the importance of how you view something. So if we look at discipline as something that is supporting our progress, then it doesn't feel so heavy at all. If you know what you want to do and accomplish, and all you have to do is give yourself permission or make the decision that you're actually going to dedicate time, effort, and energy into completing your goal, discipline becomes a support, a huge support for you. And it's really the only way that we're going to get things done. Now, I will say, of course, a lot of times we lack the discipline because we have some kind of fear, or, we make up excuses for ourselves to put things off, to procrastinate even. But it's usually because of a fear. Sometimes we fear that it won't work out. But those are stories that we are making up in our head. So if there's something you've been wanting to do, but you're stuck in a place of telling yourself stories of the possibility of things not working out, why? You won't really know what's true until you make an effort. So why speculate about what could go wrong and not just give yourself the experience of actually trying? You might prove yourself wrong. So think about your goals and then consider what's in the way. And that's a good exercise to do in this energy, because Capricorn is in top of the full moon illuminating what we're holding. Capricorn in and of itself is really good at helping us to be honest with ourselves. It's like this energy of, these are the lessons, these may be the challenges, these may be the things that are difficult, but they are all doable. All of these things that tend to be a hindrance or a block are really just made up in the mind, and we can decide to get over it. Get over the stories that we're making up and choose to move forward in a way that will actually support us. So what are your goals? What's in the way? And if you notice that they are things like time, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, or I just feel overwhelmed at the idea, give yourself an opportunity to write down some possible solutions. If it's a matter of time, really, instead of thinking you have to do everything at once and taking these huge amount of times to accomplish one goal, really consider how you can break it down into smaller steps. How you can take your time through the process without the pressure of getting something done immediately. Because in a lot of ways, we just are conditioned to want immediate results. I mean, we live in this time of technology and so much is available at our fingertips. I mean, we can get pretty much a lot that we want immediately now. Immediate access, immediate information. We can have things delivered to us immediately. We can contact people. We have modes of communication that make our communication immediate. But some things are a process, and the time frames that we create that create pressure and overwhelm are often made up in our own mind. So if time is the issue, consider, is the time frame that you're giving yourself really necessary? And what would it look like in a reasonable way to really allow yourself to start to get this done? Sometimes it's just taking the first step, right? I mean, there's something that I have been thinking about doing for months, and I thought about all the excuses of why I was hesitating until, honestly what I did was I was meditating every day with the intention of releasing my fear that I was holding so that I could make a decision from a space of clarity. And the fear started to dissipate, but it wasn't overnight. And then before I knew it, which probably was about a week, I then got up one morning and made the decision that this was the day I was going to do that thing. And then I caught myself realizing it's because I also chose to consciously transform the energy around the fear that I was holding. So if you look at what's in the way and give yourself an opportunity to choose how to work through that, either come up with a plan, find a solution, or again, work on your energy, that again can support you in moving forward. It's one step at a time. And working on our blocks also can take discipline, because oftentimes we want to run away, we want to hide, we don't want to face the things that are uncomfortable, but here we are in a full moon, illuminating our stuff for us. And that's the beauty, because the full moon is also symbolic of completing a cycle. And maybe you're stepping out of a cycle of old fear, stepping out of an old cycle of whatever could have been holding you back, which may have obviously been just in the mind. Now, with this, of course, we have to have discernment. So whatever it is that you are focused on doing, you really do want to consider what's reasonable versus what may be fear-based. Use your discernment. What's reasonable versus too risky for you? And if you are up against the choice of taking some kind of risk, are you using your discernment around the idea of risk itself? Is this something that is really, like, truly a risk? Or is it, again, just your fear that is telling you you should be nervous for reasons that may not be true? Only you will know. But the other thing with this is that if you don't try, will you then move into a space of regret? How many things in your life did you think like, oh, I should have tried that. Oh, I wish I would have started this a long time ago. Oh, why didn't I do X, Y, and Z? Now, sometimes we don't do things at a particular time in our life because the timing just isn't right for us. And again, there may be things that we need to work through in order to get us to a space where we're ready to take certain actions. But again, working on ourselves to get to that space of taking action is part of our effort. If you're having trouble making an effort, starting whatever it is that you want to do, then maybe your first focused effort should be on working on you and what you hold. And you will eventually get to what it is that you say you want to do, experience, accomplish. Now, your decision is what really propels you forward. Once we make up in our mind, you know what? I'm not going to let fear be in the way, or you know what? I'm not going to let my excuses be in the way. I'm just going to do something. I'm going to take that first step. Sometimes that's really all it takes, and then the ball gets in motion, and then next thing you know, we're building, we're creating, we're doing, and we look back like, wow, I can't believe I didn't just do that a long time ago. So, there is so much beauty in this energy when we think about the support of discipline and the importance of using our discernment. But all of it really comes down to being very honest with ourselves. And a full moon is a beautiful time to sit with yourself and really reflect on what you are full of. Are you full of inspiration? Are you full of ideas? Are you full of fear? What will best support you at this time? Now, the other thing about Capricorn, when I was thinking about this full moon, I was thinking about how Capricorn rules the 10th house, for those of you who are into astrology. And even if you're not, the 10th house is really the house on your astrology chart that is related to your career and how we show up in the world. So not just like a job or what we do day to day, but our actual career, like how, again, we show up in the world, our contribution to the world. But I was thinking of this as not just that, thinking of it from a soul level. And from that lens, it's like this is also a good time to really think about what you came here to do on a soul level. this Capricorn energy from a higher perspective could really speak to us being focused on our purpose. And not just our purpose in what we came to do, like as a lifetime career, but what we came to learn. You know, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were telling me that they thought I was really lucky that I know what it is that I want to do with my life because of the work that I'm doing now. And I told them, quite honestly, I don't know what I'm doing with my entire life. This is the work that I'm doing right now because this is what I feel called to do right now. And I feel that this work is so important because of what I have learned through this work and the healing that I have experienced through this work and the realizations. So it is important to me to share and to contribute what I have learned with the collective, because, you know, that's just something that's very important to me on a soul level at this time. Now, contributing to the collective, we're all doing it, whether we realize it or not. We do it in various ways. But regardless of what we do for work, one of the most important things is how we are showing up in our life, period. Which again speaks to our lessons and what our soul came to learn. So a lot of our purpose is more than just the work that we're doing in terms of career or this type of thing. It's about our spiritual work. Are we allowing ourselves to recognize our triggers, our wounds, our hurts? And are we allowing our soul to learn the reason or the gifts or the understanding that can come through the challenges that we may have faced or are currently facing? And if we look at our life and what we're experiencing and what is possibly holding us back from doing what we want to do, or the fears that we have or the wounds that we have, we learn a lot about what our soul came to learn. So while we can think of purpose in a way of how we contribute outwardly, you also want to consider what your soul came to learn as well. So that's it for the full moon. But another thing I wanted to talk to you about, it kind of ties in, is that Mars went retrograde yesterday. So, you know, we usually hear about Mercury going retrograde, which will happen at the end of next month. I think Mercury goes retrograde around the 27th of next month, but we'll talk about that then. But right now, Mars went retrograde yesterday. And as we've talked about on the show before, when a planet goes retrograde, it's as if the energies of it, it's like seemingly going backward, which means that it typically brings us into a space of being introspective about whatever that planet or the energy of that planet represents. So the planet Mars is really the energy of action, our desire, but it can also be aggression. So in this period, if you feel yourself being aggressive or you're highly triggered, remember to take a breath, step back, and consider your discernment. What is it that's coming up and why? What may your soul be ready to learn? And how can you respond to what's coming up in a way that will be more supportive of you? But also with this Mars retrograde, we can look at it as, since it's seemingly going backward, it could be taking us back to opportunities to decide to act differently. So if there is something that you have been struggling with, and an opportunity comes around again to help you or give you an opportunity to respond to this thing differently, really consider your choice. Am I going to respond to this in the way that I have in the past? Or am I going to handle this from a higher point of view, a higher perspective? Now, another thing this may bring us into a space of reflection about is our action or inaction, because again, Mars is the planet of action. So you may again be thinking about the actions that you're taking or not, what you are passionate about, or what you may be being aggressive about. Be mindful. Now, this Mars retrograde is happening. Mars is in Aquarius, and it's going to move into Capricorn. And Aquarius energy is like, it's rebellious. It is futuristic. It seeks freedom for all. Freedom of mind for all. It's about technology. It's about connection, community, friendship. And Capricorn, again, is all about how we are showing up in the world. So with this Mars being in these signs and it being very introspective, we may feel some energy of frustration around how we are able to communicate, share, how we are showing up in the world, going back to considering how we are or what we are doing, the actions that we are taking or not. So it's really good to know what's going on, one, so that you know that you're not alone. But two, when we have understanding around this, we can, again, navigate it differently. And it's such a beautiful opportunity to really be observers of ourselves, noticing what is coming up for us, what we are inspired to do, and having the discipline to actually get those balls in motion. So with that, I thought we could kind of just really quickly look at past, present, and future in a way. So in the month of the end of May into this month of June, we were in that energy of Gemini. And I talked to you about Gemini being all about gathering information, networking, ideas, and curiosity, which at the start of the show I told you you may have experienced this month. Like really having so much inspiration, whether you knew what to do with it or not. And perhaps you had opportunities to network or meet or work with other people in some way. But again, there's a lot of energy around our curiosity and seeking and, again, gathering information. But as we move into the end of this month of June and we begin to go into July, we're going to be in the energy of Cancer. Now that sign is, the symbol for that sign is the crab, but it's also a very nurturing energy. It's considered like a mother energy of the zodiac. But when we think about a crab and we think about that hard shell, think of the end of this month and going into July, we may have some energy around considering what we want to accept and what we may reject about all the information that we gathered in June. What resonates with us and what doesn't. What do we want to share about ourselves and what do we feel we want to protect? Or what are we working on being more vulnerable around now? This also will bring up energy around our family and our home. So don't be surprised if that comes up for you in the next month. But all of this, okay, think of it now sequentially. Like, so if we gathered information, networking, ideas, curiosity, and then we start to discern what it is we accept, what we want to share, what we want to protect. We're kind of like sorting through, deciding what really works for us and what we may be transforming or healing, what's changing. And then at the end of July, moving into August, we move into the energy of Leo, where then we're ready more to come out and emerge and shine and share in a new way. So what I want to say about that is it goes back to considering your timetables for yourself. Don't put so much pressure on you to have to figure out everything in one day, to have to complete everything in one day. A lot of what we do is a process. A lot of what we do and want to experience requires us taking the time to work on ourselves energetically in order to align with what it is we really want to do. We're so complex. There's so many beautiful layers to us, which speaks again to what our souls came to learn. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is Saturn, which again is the ruler of Capricorn. And I just wanted to point that out because we are talking about this full moon in Capricorn, is that Saturn will be the closest to our planet and illuminated by the sun today. So hopefully you're hearing this podcast today. But Saturn and its moons will still be visible with a medium to large telescope through the end of this month. So if you are interested in seeing that, if you don't have a telescope, you can check local astronomical societies in your area and see if they have any events that are open to the public. It might be something cool to see. And speaking of that, because we're also talking about Mars going retrograde, Mars will be closest to the Earth at the end of July, on July 31st actually, and it won't be that close to Earth again until 2035. So you may want to mark your calendar. Again, might be something cool to see. It'll look like a bright orange star in the sky. And if I'm throwing too many dates at you, you can sign up for my newsletter at yuchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. All of that information is available in my free download for you, which is called Creating with the Moon and Stars. So there's a lot of cool information in there about the energy throughout the year so that we can use the energy, these universal energies, to best support us by understanding what's going on. So that's really it. I just wanted to share with you today because it is the full moon. I didn't do a podcast last week because we were doing the Facebook Live with our last guest, Kate Fowley. So if you do want to join us for the behind the scenes or what goes on, the interviews after the podcast, you can join us in the Seeker Circle, which is a free community on Facebook. Again, you can get information about that on my website, which is yuchi.com. That's YEWCHI.com. I also have temporarily opened up my mentoring programs. So if you want to go through mentoring with me for 3 or 6 months, you have that option, but registrations for that will close soon. So that is it. Be sure to observe what you are full of during this full moon and how your discipline can support you in fulfilling your goals, your desires, the experiences you want to have, and use your discernment to really support you through it. Okay, lovers, I will see you all soon, and remember to always journey in love.